Welcome to Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed. Get ready to dive into the world of nonprofit leadership and sustainability, where the passion and unstoppable dedication of those making a real impact are celebrated. With your host, Jarrett Ransom, get ready to explore inspiring stories and game changing strategies of nonprofit leaders from across the sector. In this season, we're focusing on critical management challenges that are key to the long-term success of nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed is your go-to podcast for no-nonsense, in-depth conversations with the real-life superheroes of the nonprofit sector. Get ready to unleash your inner nerdiness and learn how to navigate and overcome the challenges that help build stronger, more sustainable organizations. Now, let's dive in and harness the collective power of our nonprofit networks to create lasting change.
Welcome back. Today, I'm joined by the incredible Ginny Waller, founder of Waller Consulting. Ginny is a powerhouse in guiding organizations through leadership transitions, change management, and the sometimes messy middle of growth and restructuring. In our conversation, Ginny pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to lead in a current landscape that we're all navigating right now. She talks about navigating board responsibility as well as tackling leadership pitfalls to rethinking these outdated structures that keep our organizations stuck. Ginny shares about her journey from an authoritarian leadership style to a more inclusive, adaptive approach, and why sometimes the hardest decisions, even without full buy-in, are the right ones for your organization's long-term sustainability. Ginny also goes on to share her best strategies for balancing your operational efficiency while also investing in your people. And for those facing the uncertainty of the federal funding cuts, she also brings practical, courageous advice for staying mission-focused, building partnerships, and making those tough calls that position your nonprofit to thrive. This episode, brought to you by Bloomerang, shout out for being this season's sponsor, is packed with insights for boards, executives, and anyone ready to lead with intentionality, courage, and clarity. So let's dive in with Ginny Waller. Enjoy. Well, welcome back. And I want to say welcome back, y'all, because I'm really excited. Today's guest, Ginny Waller. We are just meeting. You're hearing our conversation truly for the first time. But Ginny, I would love for you to just ground all of us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're joining us from, and your role in the sector.
Sure. So my name is Ginny Waller. I am the founder and principal advisor for Waller Consulting. I am originally from Louisiana and then lived in South Carolina for 17 years. Hence the y'all. There'll probably be some fixins in here too. So prepare yourself if you're not used to that kind of language. And we are a firm that helps out. I'm based out of DC now, should have added that. So the government, my husband is active duty US Army, and they moved us to the DC area. And that's where we are currently stationed out of the Pentagon. And I started Waller Consulting about 9 years ago. The idea behind it was when I had been an executive director, I felt very lonely, felt very isolated, and didn't really have anyone I could go to for support, for real advice. And, to be honest, because I didn't want to tell my board, hey, I don't think I know what I'm doing. I mean, you don't want to disclose that. And I didn't want to tell my staff I didn't know what I was doing and impart fear upon their hearts. So I really kept everything internal and always said, if I have an opportunity, I want to be that person for someone else in the nonprofit sector. So I started Waller Consulting to be a trusted advisor. I am a lawyer. Please don't hold that against me. I feel like I use it really well to support the nonprofit sector. I do nonprofit bylaws and policies, and I love governance. I'm very detail oriented, but really my practice is much larger than that. We focus on providing trusted advisor support, but we really have found our niche in change management. So we go into organizations, nonprofit organizations, who are either experiencing unexpected leadership transitions or other types of transitions, such as sudden loss of funding, something like that. Or two, organizations really craving change and knowing that it's time for the hard decisions to be made. And we do strategic planning, interim leadership management, which I know you do some as well. And so I'm really excited to talk to you guys today, and hopefully have some at least some great stories, and we'll get to have a good time together.
We're going to have a great time. And I wish this was sweet tea. So for everyone listening, I was born in Georgia, raised in South Carolina. So Ginny and I, when we connected, we talked about our Southern draws, we talked about our accents, things like that, but really have already enjoyed the conversation. And as you really level set everything, Ginny, you have seen a lot of transitions, a lot of change management, a lot in this sector that we both love so dearly. And really, as we talk of this intersection, leadership and sustainability, starting off right out of the gate, I want to ask you what you're seeing by way of leadership and sustainability. What is that looking like today in light of, come on, you're in DC, you know what's going on with our
Yeah.
current state of affairs. So how is this impacting our sector?
Well, proof so much that leadership really not only kind of reinforces the chaos, but really leads the chaos. So I can tell when someone calls me on the phone, an executive director calls me on the phone, or a board chair. I can tell within the first few minutes whether or not that organization is in chaos or not, and it's not because of what the executive director or the board chair says; it's how they say it. And I think that when I meet a board chair, or an executive director who are in chaos, they're in crisis, and it's something, a level of things that have escalated, and they're very reactive. I know immediately that that is how they're leading their organization. It doesn't mean it's not rightly so, right? That they are in that space. If your executive director walked out at 5 p.m. on a Friday, and you've got a full-time job, you might be freaking out as a board chair. So it's not a judgment space, but it is definitely, it helps me assess where the organization is, because the leader sets the tone. Whoever's at the top sets the tone for the whole darn thing. And it doesn't matter if you have everyone in the hierarchy, everyone down and below really working hard to push against, it won't matter. It will infiltrate the organizational culture. And I think generally we live in this like really reactive, kind of trauma reactive world. Everybody is between the media and the politics and everything happening. People are just here, right? I did a lot in trauma informed world before I went into, like, after I left formal practice, nonprofit or legal practice. I ran a rape crisis agency for 9 years, and a lot of what I learned about trauma informed behaviors and what's happening in our world today is like, oh my God, this is, all of us have these like triggers, and it's constant heightened state of reactivity. It's really affecting our organizations just at the core. um, and I think that's one of the things that we often talk about is, well, I don't have a great executive director. How can I work around that? You can't. And I'm here to say you cannot do that. That is just not an option. So I think that's where it all starts, and really it ends and begins. And boards are responsible for ensuring that those individuals are healthy and leading in a non-chaos way, so that the organization can be sustainable beyond their leadership, and really be set up for success. I hope
I
that answered
really
your question.
appreciate that. It does. And I appreciate that truth to power, because I'm seeing that too. A lot of our leaders are feeling the pressure. They're feeling deflated. They are feeling desperate, right? Escalated. And so that's got to impact, I would think, their
Yeah.
leadership style. How do you currently, keyword, define
Mhm.
your leadership style? And second to that question is, have you seen your style change over time? I'm really curious
Yeah.
how you navigated this journey.
Sure. Well, I am a type A, D in the disc, red color code, like all the personality assessments. I'm an authoritarian by nature. That's the lawyer in me. And so when I first started in the nonprofit sector, I really led that way. I was like, it's my way or the highway. And boy, I ran a really tight ship and a great organization, highly successful, but I didn't have the one heartache and headache that I always had was the management side of things because I was pushing decisions upon people. As I matured in my leadership, I really became more democratic in kind of my leadership style. And I think that is actually what has made me a really good and my team really good at the interim leadership because we know that we can come in, we can lead very intentionally wherever the client is. So it can be very situational, and I like that. But also to really look at, does this organization need change immediate? Can we be more, do we have to be more authoritarian in this situation? Or do we have time to be democratic about the change, be more facilitators of the change, and bring people together to drive the change rather than us driving it? Now, we don't have a lot of time always, but my goal is let's get everybody on in the beginning and let it be their idea. It's kind of like what I do with my husband sometimes. I have to tell him, like, oh, honey, that's such a great idea, even though I planted that idea 2 weeks ago, but I want it to be his idea so that he wants to do it. I think that that's part of it, is that we do have to do that because people come to us and say, these are our problems. And if we say, well, I hear you, but we're still going to do it this way, trust is completely eroded. Everything's completely gone. We have to be, if we're going to ask their opinion, if we're going to be inclusive of other mindsets, then we have to listen to what they say and we have to give them what they ask for. And we just want to lead them to what we believe is the right answer. Doesn't mean they always get there, right? You can lead a horse to water. Doesn't mean they're going to drink it.
How many times I've also heard the analogy, like, if you know one board or one nonprofit, you know one board and you know one nonprofit, right? Like they're all kind of a little different. They all have different nuances. And I appreciate your leadership style and your awareness, Ginny, around that leadership style. I would say mine has reflected a lot of the same. And
Yeah.
over my career, 20 plus years, it has morphed over time. And I think it's had to, by way of the landscape, the social landscape, the economic landscape, my maturity as well, you know, like where that is. But I want to ask you for an example in particular, right? As we look at the need for change because of changing landscapes, can you share an example? Does anything in particular come to mind for you about how you've adapted a nonprofit, right, that you've worked with or your team has worked with to the current, where we're living now, this economic, social, and I'm going to add political landscape, right? Like, anything come to mind about how you've navigated this using that leadership
Yeah.
style and kind of back to that intersection? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, gosh, Jarrett, wouldn't even know where to start on examples because I'm just wrapped up my 15th interim engagement for my firm. I've done it a lot, right? And all of those include a change of some sort and to meet whatever's going on with the organization at the time. A lot of the time I'll go in and I'll help organizations completely restructure. Part of what they need to do when I do a full organizational assessment from day one when I walk in. Usually by month 2, I'm completed and I'm ready to make recommendations. I've listened, done my listening tour, done all of that, really trying to get different mindsets. But sometimes what comes out of that is that I need to restructure. So I have restructured, and with restructure, you've got people, loss of identity, you've got really people sad about the way things kind of were, and the change itself is hard for them anyway. You've got individuals who are tied to specific productions and what they're doing, and they can't see that there is opportunity to make a bigger impact in another way. And so I've definitely done a lot of organizational restructure. I've brought people back. Here's an unpopular opinion. I was the one who brought people back when we came back from COVID. I had to do that for 3 organizations, really
You mean
4.
like back in the office?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The traditional office is gone, and that is absolutely acceptable. But in some cases, the team environment that is nonprofit, that is required for that mission-driven work, like I don't feel passionate about Post-its enough to feel like we got to build team around making Post-its, right? But I feel like if we're helping homeless, we need to be really united on how we're helping them and the direction we're all headed. And sometimes that means bringing people back to office. Very, very, very unpopular.
Yeah.
And
I can
that,
feel it in my
sometimes,
chest.
yeah, sometimes you got to make the hard decisions though, right? I mean, if there's a takeaway for today, I know, I would say you have to make the hard decisions as a leader that are right for your organization. And if you can get buy-in for the highest level, great. But if you can't, sometimes it's about doing what it needs to be done. And I had a failure. One of them that I brought back, they actually ended up going back to fully remote after I left. By the way, they dissolved 2 years ago. So
Ah,
I'm not saying that's
yeah.
why it happened, but I am saying that it did happen.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think there's
that's
a
just some
lot of,
examples.
those are great examples. And I think there's a lot to unpack with that. I am seeing that in the interim space as well, is so many organizations have maintained this complete remote experience, some hybrid, but there's the morale for the team is down, the silos are happening, like all of that is still taking place, and the mission
Yeah.
is suffering, the community is suffering.
Yes.
The
Yes.
operational efficiency is suffering, right? Which takes me
Yes.
to, how are you seeing nonprofits balance the need for this operational efficiency, but also investing in their professional team? We both know, Jenny, and probably all of our listeners, right? Our sector is tired. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of burnout. There's a lot of mission, and compassion fatigue. There's a lot of individuals retiring and just saying, you know what, I should have retired long ago, but I held on longer than I wanted because of fill in the blank. It could be COVID 2020. But so I'm really curious, right? Like the balancing this again, operational efficiency while investing in their people.
Yeah. So I think, and I'm a preacher. I mean, I may have just said like bring it on back to the office and you have to do it for the org. And so that doesn't seem very employee friendly, though I will argue there are plenty of employees who want to come back because they're extroverted and enjoy it. So it's not, meeting everyone, but it is meeting some. But investing in your people really is one of the most important things you do. The number one way nonprofits think they should is by giving more money. And that's, I know, woe is me. I can't give them any more money. I just can't do it. I'm broke. We don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. I'm poor too. But that is not where it is. That's not the secret sauce. The secret sauce is taking your organization, understanding what's working and what's not. What's your impact that you're making in your programs? Which ones are performing? Which ones are underperforming? What kind of things are you doing operationally that are just duplicative and just absolutely wasting your staff members' time? What can we do and cut and pull back on that is not helping us move the needle, but is just wearing out our folks? That's your starting place. And you can
Love
go to
that.
other things, right? You could go to looking at what staff need to be supported. Absolutely need to be making a living wage. Don't tell me you can't pay your people. That's not true. You just choose to allocate your money somewhere else. Pay your people. Maybe do less. Pay your people. And so I'll preach that all day long. That whole like celebration of um, exhaustion that executive directors do. And if any executive directors are listening, and I hope that they are, I beg you, please do not celebrate burnout and exhaustion. You're not doing yourself or your organization, your team, anyone, any favors. We should be nurturing, supporting, talking about how we can meet them. As long as they're performing, we are going to get them what they need to be successful in the workspace, and vice versa, right? It's very cyclical. I think I just took you to church a little bit, Jarrett. Sorry.
My hands are up in the air and I am loving it because I'm right there with you. And I want to add on, let's also not celebrate scarcity mindset, because I think that,
Yes.
continues to perpetuate the same
Yes.
message, right? And I think that goes hand in hand, but sustainability is necessary, right? I mean,
Yeah,
before we
absolutely.
jumped on this conversation, Jenny, I was talking to another organization that, I really do think you need to reassess your organization, figure out what programs can you put on the shelf right now, what can you do at this time to right size the ship to weather this current storm, so you're not
Yeah,
closing your doors, and in a year, 2 years, 3 years, you can bring those programs that you love so much back, but they weren't sustainable, right? They
that's
weren't,
right.
you don't have the capacity to do all of that. But sustainability of organizations is important. No one wants to
Yeah,
close their doors. So what does
right.
sustainability look like right now in this landscape? What are you seeing with your clients? What are you hearing, when, because you've got, again, you're an attorney, you get to see things differently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a variety of things. I think it's going to be a trickle down. And you know this, like, so I have clients who get a lot of federal funding and they are deeply impacted right now by what's happening at the federal level and decision making. I think that those will start snatching and grabbing at the same funds that a lot of the ones that are not dependent on federal funding are dependent on. And so we're going to see it trickle down to all the organizations. So, what I've been telling my clients is I want you to hone in on what you do best. What is your core competency? What is the very thing at the end of the day, if you had to say all of it goes, but this? I want you to lean hard into that, just like we do with our businesses, right? Like, let's just lean hard into that. And then we'll look at partnering, outsourcing, possibly turning some of the other programs into fee-based. But let's figure out alternatives for all the for the gravy and like just really focus on that one thing that we do. And I think they're saying, but I need a board who's fundraising and I need this. We always needed all of that. But what we can control and focus on right now is really honing in on what you do best. That's mission focused, mission aligned, and just leaning into it. I mean, there's no better way to say it, Jared. Like if you put all your resources, all your staff, all your stuff towards that one area, imagine the impact that you're going to make. And then you get other people from the community doing other things that they can really spend time leaning into.
Isn't that scary though? Are you finding that to be scary when you have that conversation with organizations? Are they like, there's no way we can do that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't even know if it's scary. I mean, I don't know. I recently, I'm going to totally push y'all to a blog post I did on ego edging out mission because it just frankly ticks me off when I see so much of this pride associated with an organization's programs or organization's activities that are not mission aligned anymore. It's not mission driven. It's not wanted. And this is the most important. It's not wanted by the customer or the client. It's not serving the people that it was intended to serve. And yet you won't let it go. The only person it is serving is that individual or that group of people. And so, yeah, I think that they are scared. For me, it just irks me because I'm so frustrated, but I'm very black and white, right? That's the lawyer in me. It's like very much like, listen, this just makes sense. See the paperwork? I don't care how you feel about it. And so I've definitely, I would say I'm probably around 30% successful at actually making organizations move towards really that core competency. Most of them say thanks, but no thanks. And, and then it's, I'm going to see you later when I help with your dissolution, or I'm going to see you later when because that's the alternative. And is that one we want? I mean, I don't.
No, because we don't start organizations to dissolve them, right? I do
Right.
think we will see more partnerships, more mergers, more
I do too.
acquisitions. I'm going to say it out loud. I hope we do. I
I
think
do
that
too.
is also part of the path of sustainability.
I
And
do too.
I'm glad to hear you say that you agree.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm working with Eric Speakman out of Atlanta, he's doing a whole lot to work with foundations across the country to get them to understand the importance of funding. Really, these sustainable collaborations is what we're trying to call them, so that it doesn't scare people, but essentially mergers and acquisitions at some level, at least shared partnerships and then mergers and acquisitions. But I think we've got to. There's no way that the private philanthropy can support and make up for what's happening with the federal government funding. And frankly, they shouldn't. What we should do is allow that to weed out organizations that are not willing to be mission centered. And then something's going to step up to fill its spot. And I think the organizations that are really listening to this and understand this are going to be the ones that survive on the other side of things, because they're going to have partnered for their X program and partnered in their Y program, and their Z became a fee based. And now they are highly successful at half the amount of money that they were making before, half the budget.
That's right. I love that recipe. I think that's fantastic. And I think you have a lot more to offer. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are saying, I need to talk to Ginny, or I'm curious what Ginny would think about this. So tell us, where do you want people to find you? I know you pointed to this blog. Where do we find your blogs? All that good information.
Yes. So if your listeners enjoyed the straight talk, because that's definitely what I do, they can go on my website. It's capacitytodream.com, because I believe that we help organizations build capacity to dream their visions to reality. And that's what we're here for, right? To go out of business. And so they can go on there, and I have a blog, but I also have resources on LinkedIn, lots of free consulting advice. Resources out the wazoo, videos, everything you can possibly imagine. So I encourage people to go and seek out those different sources.
Yes, I encourage them as well, because I love this truth to power, right? I love the honesty. I love the straight talk, so much so, which leads me with my last question for you, Ginny. Like, is there one final piece of advice or words that you want to leave our listeners with today? Any final, this,
Mm,
I want them to hear this, or whatever that is.
yeah, I think what's one of the things that's missing most in our world today is um, the courage to have those tough conversations and to say the truth. I mean, you can say it with kindness, but to say the truth in speaking up against people who are, there's just a lot of anger, and you're avoiding, most people are avoiding conflict and they want to avoid it. It's those people who are willing to have courageous conversations, to bring up at the table, maybe this program isn't working. I know you love it, Bob, but it's not working. But being willing to say those things, to question, those are the very individuals that are going to save our organization. So be that brave force, and be the one that asks the questions.
I couldn't have said it better. Courageous conversations. Let's do more of those. Ginny,
Yeah.
thank you. You have been a pleasure. I feel like we're best friends already. Definitely want to have some sweet tea with you the next time I'm in, our familial
In the
neighborhood. So thank
Carolinas.
you for
Yeah, I
joining
would love
me.
that. Thank you so much, Jarrett, for having me. It was a pleasure.